When you save a bloodied man's life in the middle of a stormy night, you never imagine he's the most dangerous mafia boss on the West Coast. And when black SUVs surround your clinic before dawn, you realize saving him wasn't just a good deed, it was a death sentence for your peaceful life. I'm your storyteller today. Follow this story to the very end. Don't forget to like and comment the city you're watching from. I want to know how far this story has come. Now, let's begin. The rain came down like the sky was bleeding out. Selena Vale stood inside the front window of her veterinary clinic, watching water hammer the empty highway outside. The fluorescent lights above her flickered. Once, twice, throwing shadows across exam tables still cluttered with syringes and bandages from a long shift. Her fingers ached. Her back screamed. She'd spent 14 hours setting a German shepherd's broken leg, then another 3 stitching up a barn cat some asshole had kicked into a fence post. This was the job. This was always the job. She pulled her hair into a messy knot and started wiping down the steel tables. The clinic smelled like disinfectant and wet dog. Outside, the storm turned the Oregon highway into a river. No cars, no headlights, just rain and wind and the kind of darkness that made you remember how far you were from anything that mattered. Selena didn't mind the isolation most days. She'd chosen this place specifically because it was 50 miles from the nearest city and 100 miles from her past. The people out here didn't ask questions. They paid in cash or traded in firewood. They brought her their dying animals and trusted her to save them. She was good at saving things. That was the problem. The pounding on the door hit like a gunshot. Selena's hand froze mid-wipe. Her heart kicked against her ribs. The sound came again. Fists slamming against glass with the kind of desperation that didn't belong to anything human. Every instinct she had screamed at her to stay still, lock the door, turn off the lights, pretend she wasn't here. But her feet were already moving. She crossed the linoleum floor and stopped at the door. Through the rain-streaked glass, she could barely make out a shape. Tall, hunched, bleeding. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. She unlocked the door and yanked it open. The man fell forward like a building collapsing. Selena caught him, barely, and his weight nearly took her down. He was huge, 6'3", maybe more, soaked through. His suit was expensive, the kind of tailored Italian fabric she'd only ever seen in magazines, but it was shredded now. Blood poured from his shoulder in thick, pulsing streams. "Inside," she hissed. "Get inside." He stumbled through the doorway, and she slammed the door shut behind them. The man dropped to his knees on the floor, breathing hard. His face was pale beneath dark hair plastered to his skull. Sweat mixed with rain. Blood dripped onto the linoleum in fat, heavy drops. Selena's brain shifted into autopilot. She'd done this before. Not with people, she wasn't that kind of doctor. But a bullet wound was a bullet wound, flesh was flesh. "Exam table," she said. "Now." The man's head turned. His eyes locked on hers. They were silver. Cold, the kind of eyes that had seen things she couldn't imagine. "Who shot you?" she asked. He didn't answer, just stared. "I need to know if they're coming here," Selena said. Her voice came out sharper than she meant. "Are they following you?" Still nothing. "Fine," she snapped. "Get on the table or bleed out on my floor, your choice." That got him moving. He dragged himself upright and stumbled toward the exam table. Selena grabbed towels and antiseptic, her hands already running through the procedure in her head. Gunshot wound. Through and through or lodged? Arterial bleeding or venous? How long did she have before he went into shock? The man collapsed onto the table with a grunt. His breathing was ragged, shallow. His shirt was glued to his chest with blood. Selena grabbed scissors and started cutting. The fabric peeled away in wet strips. Underneath, his skin was a battlefield. The gunshot wound tore through his left shoulder, just above the collarbone. Not arterial, thank God, but bad enough. She could see bone. "This is going to hurt," she said. The man's jaw tightened. "Do it." His voice was gravel and broken glass. Selena threaded the needle with hands that didn't shake. She'd stitched up dogs, cats, horses, even a goat once. A human wasn't that different. Same muscles, same blood, same desperate need to survive. She pushed the needle through skin and pulled tight. The man didn't flinch. Not when the needle went in. Not when she tied off the first stitch. Not when she cleaned the wound with antiseptic that should have made him scream. He just lay there, silver eyes locked on the ceiling, breathing through clenched teeth. "You've been shot before," Selena said. "Yes." "Recently?" "No." She pulled another stitch tight. "You're not going to tell me who did this, are you?" "No." "Or why?" "No." Selena worked in silence after that. The rain pounded against the windows. The fluorescent lights buzzed. Blood soaked through the towels she'd piled under his shoulder. She kept stitching, one suture at a time, until the wound was closed and the bleeding had slowed to a trickle. When she finally stepped back, her hands were stained red up to the wrists. "You need a hospital," she said. The man sat up, too fast. His face went white and he swayed, but he didn't fall. "No hospital. You've lost a lot of blood." "No. Hospital." The way he said it left no room for argument. Selena stared at him, at the expensive suit, at the cold, dangerous eyes, at the way he held himself even now, like a man who'd spent his whole life expecting someone to put a bullet in him. "Who the hell are you?" she asked. The man's mouth twitched. It might have been a smile. "Dante." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." Selena's hands balled into fists. She wanted to throw him out, call the cops, let someone else deal with whatever mess this was. But the rational part of her brain, the part that had kept her alive this long, knew that was a bad idea. Whoever this man was, he was dangerous. And if she kicked him out now, she'd make an enemy. "You can stay until the bleeding stops," she said. "Then you're gone." Dante nodded. "Fair." Selena turned away and started cleaning up. Blood everywhere, towels ruined, instruments she'd have to sterilize twice. She worked mechanically, trying not to think about the man sitting behind her, or the fact that she'd just committed a felony. Aiding and abetting, that's what this was. She'd patched up a man with a gunshot wound and didn't report it. If the cops found out, she'd lose her license, lose the clinic, lose everything. But what choice did she have? She glanced over her shoulder. Dante was watching her again. Those silver eyes tracked every movement like a predator sizing up prey. "Stop staring at me," Selena said. You're good at this." "I'm a vet. It's my job." "You didn't ask questions." Selena dumped the bloody towels into a trash bag. "Would you have answered them?" "No." "Then what's the point?" Dante's mouth curved into something that might have been respect. "Smart. Smart would have been leaving you outside to bleed," Selena muttered. She tied off the trash bag and carried it to the back room. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline crash. It always hit after the emergency was over. She leaned against the wall and forced herself to breathe. In, out, in, out. She'd saved him. Whoever he was, whatever he'd done, she'd kept him alive. That had to count for something, didn't it? When she walked back into the exam room, Dante was on his feet. He swayed once, caught himself on the edge of the table, then straightened. His face was still pale, but the bleeding had stopped. The stitches held. "You need rest," Selena said. "I need to leave." "You'll tear the stitches." Dante pulled on what was left of his jacket. The fabric hung in tatters, soaked and ruined. He looked like a ghost, like something that had crawled out of hell and hadn't quite made it all the way back. "Thank you," he said. Selena crossed her arms. "Don't come back." "I won't." He turned toward the door. His hand was on the handle when headlights cut through the rain outside. Selena's stomach dropped. The headlights didn't pass. They slowed, then stopped. Dante's whole body went rigid. His hand moved to his waistband, to a gun Selena hadn't noticed until now, and his eyes narrowed. "How many exits?" he asked. "What?" "How many exits does this building have?" Selena's mouth went dry. "2, front and back." "Lock the back." "What's going on?" "Lock it, now." The command in his voice left no room for argument. Selena ran to the back door and threw the deadbolt. When she turned around, Dante was standing in the shadows near the front window, gun in hand, watching the vehicle outside. It was a black SUV, tinted windows, engine idling. "Friends of yours?" Selena asked. Dante's jaw tightened. "No." The SUV doors opened. 2 men stepped out. They were dressed in dark clothes, rain streaming off their shoulders. One of them had a phone pressed to his ear. The other scanned the building like he was looking for something, or someone. "They saw you come in here," Selena whispered. Dante didn't answer. He just stood there, gun raised, waiting. The men outside started moving toward the clinic, slow, deliberate. One of them reached inside his jacket. Selena's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "What do we do?" she hissed. Dante glanced at her. For the first time since he'd stumbled through her door, something almost human flickered across his face. "We survive," he said. Then the front window exploded. Glass shattered inward in a spray of jagged shards. Selena screamed and hit the floor. Gunfire ripped through the air, loud, deafening, the kind of sound that turned the world into nothing but noise and terror. Dante fired back. 3 shots. 4. The muzzle flash lit up the room like lightning. Selena crawled behind the exam table, hands over her head, trying to make herself as small as possible. Her ears were ringing. Her throat was raw. She couldn't breathe. More gunfire. The walls splintered. Medicine cabinets exploded. Bottles shattered and rained chemicals across the floor. Then silence. Selena looked up. Dante was still standing, gun raised, breathing hard. Blood seeped through his shirt where the stitches had torn. Outside, one of the men lay motionless on the pavement. The other had retreated behind the SUV. "Move," Dante said. "What?" "Back door. Now." Selena didn't argue. She scrambled to her feet and ran for the back exit. Dante was right behind her. She could hear his labored breathing, the wet sound of blood dripping onto the floor. She threw open the back door and stumbled into the rain. The alley behind the clinic was narrow and dark. Water poured from the gutters. Trash bins overflowed. Selena ran, her sneakers splashing through puddles, not knowing where she was going or why. Behind her, Dante grabbed her arm. "Car," he said. Where's your car?" Selena pointed toward the small parking lot on the side of the building. Her ancient Honda sat under a broken streetlight, rusted and half dead but still running. They ran. More gunfire erupted behind them. Bullets sparked off the pavement. Selena's lungs burned. Her legs felt like they were going to give out. Dante shoved her toward the car. "Drive." "I can't. Drive or die. Pick one." Selena's hands were shaking so hard she could barely get the key into the ignition. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. Dante threw himself into the passenger seat just as another burst of gunfire tore through the air. The rear window exploded. Safety glass rained into the back seat. "Go!" Dante shouted. Selena slammed her foot on the gas. The Honda fishtailed out of the parking lot and onto the highway. Rain hammered the windshield. The wipers could barely keep up. Behind them, headlights appeared. The black SUV, accelerating hard. "They're following us," Selena said. Her voice came out high and thin. Dante reloaded his gun with one hand. Blood soaked his shirt. His face was gray. "I know." "What do we do?" "Drive faster." Selena pressed the gas pedal to the floor. The Honda shuddered and groaned but picked up speed. 80 miles an hour, 90. The highway curved ahead, winding into the mountains. The SUV was gaining. "They're going to kill us," Selena said. Dante didn't answer. He leaned out the window and fired, once, twice. The SUV swerved but didn't slow. Selena's hands were locked on the steering wheel. Her whole body was shaking. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. "Who are you?" she screamed. Dante pulled himself back inside. He looked at her with those cold silver eyes, and for a moment she saw something that might have been regret. "Someone you should have left to die," he said. The SUV rammed them from behind. The Honda spun. Selena screamed. The world tilted sideways as the car skidded across the wet pavement, tires shrieking, metal grinding against asphalt. They hit the guardrail hard. The impact threw Selena forward. Her seatbelt locked. Pain exploded across her chest. The car shuddered to a stop, half on, half off the road. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Dante grabbed her shoulder. "Out! Now!" Selena's hands fumbled with the seatbelt. Her fingers wouldn't work. Everything hurt. Her vision swam. Dante reached across and unclipped the belt. He dragged her out of the car just as the SUV's headlights flooded the wreckage. They ran. Into the trees. Into the darkness, into the forest that stretched endlessly on both sides of the highway. Branches tore at Selena's face, roots tried to trip her, rain poured down through the canopy above. Behind them, she could hear voices. Footsteps. Men shouting orders in a language she didn't understand. Dante pulled her deeper into the woods. His grip on her wrist was iron. His breathing was ragged. Blood left a trail behind them. "Keep moving," he said. "I can't." "You can." Selena's lungs were on fire. Her legs screamed, but she kept running because the alternative was a bullet in the back. They crashed through underbrush and stumbled down a steep embankment. Selena fell hard, her hands sinking into mud. Dante pulled her up without stopping. The voices behind them were getting closer. "They're going to find us," Selena gasped. Dante didn't answer. He just kept moving, dragging her along, until they reached a small ravine carved out by decades of rainfall. He pulled her into the shadows beneath an overhang of rock and moss. "Don't move," he whispered. "Don't breathe." Selena pressed herself against the cold stone. Her heart hammered in her chest. Rain poured down in sheets, turning the forest into a wall of sound. Footsteps passed above them. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Men called out to each other in sharp, clipped Russian. Selena held her breath until her lungs burned. The footsteps moved away, slowly, then faster. Then they were gone. Selena sagged against the rock. Her whole body was shaking, tears mixed with rain on her face. "What the hell is happening?" she whispered. Dante leaned his head back against the stone. Blood soaked through his shirt. His face was pale as death. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "Now they know who you are." "Who?" "The people who want me dead." Selena stared at him, at the blood, at the gun still clutched in his hand, at the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. "Who are you?" she asked again. Dante closed his eyes. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, so quietly she almost didn't hear it over the rain, "Dante Moretti, head of the Moretti family, West Coast operations." The name hit her like a fist. She'd heard it before. Everyone had. Whispered in bars, mentioned in news reports about gang violence and drug trafficking and bodies found in shallow graves. The Moretti family wasn't just organized crime. They were an empire. And she'd just stitched up their king. "Oh God," Selena whispered. Dante opened his eyes. "You should have left me to die." Selena's hands were shaking so hard she had to press them against her knees. "What happens now?" "Now." Dante looked at her with those cold, dead eyes. "Now you run, as far and as fast as you can, because the people hunting me won't stop until everyone connected to me is dead." "You're saying I'm a target." "I'm saying you're already dead. You just don't know it yet." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Selena wanted to scream, to cry, to wake up and discover this was all some nightmare brought on by too much coffee and not enough sleep. But the pain in her ribs was real. The mud under her hands was real. The blood soaking through Dante's shirt was real. This was happening. "I can't run," she said. "I have a clinic, a life. I can't just disappear." Dante's expression didn't change. "Then you're going to die in the next 48 hours. There has to be another option." There isn't. Selena's mind raced. She tried to think of something, anything, that made sense. Call the police? They'd never believe her. Go into hiding? She had $200 in her bank account and a maxed-out credit card. Run to another state? They'd already proven they could track her down in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. She was trapped. "What if I stay with you?" she asked. Dante's eyes narrowed. "What?" "You said they'll kill anyone connected to you, but they haven't killed you yet." "They're trying, but you're still alive, which means you're better at this than they are." Selena swallowed hard. "So what if I stay with you, just until this is over, until they stop hunting you?" Dante stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "You have no idea what you're asking." "I'm asking to stay alive." "You won't, not in my world." "I won't survive out there either," Selena's voice cracked. "You said it yourself, I'm already dead. At least with you, I have a chance." Dante looked away. His jaw worked. Blood dripped from his fingers onto the mud. "If you come with me," he said finally, "you follow my orders. No questions, no arguments. You do exactly what I say, when I say it." "Fine. And when this is over, if we both survive, you walk away and never look back." Selena nodded. "Deal." Dante closed his eyes. He looked like a man who'd just made a choice he knew he'd regret. "Then we move," he said. "Now," before they circled back. He pushed himself upright with a grimace. Fresh blood seeped through the stitches. He was barely standing, but he moved anyway, one step at a time, deeper into the forest. Selina followed. She didn't know where they were going, didn't know what came next, didn't know if she'd made the right choice or just signed her own death warrant. All she knew was that her old life, the clinic, the isolation, the safety, was gone. And the only thing standing between her and a bullet was a man who'd already told her she should have let him die. They walked for what felt like hours, through rain and mud and darkness so thick Selina could barely see her own hands. Dante moved like a ghost, silent and sure, even with blood pouring from his shoulder. Finally, they reached a clearing. A black SUV sat idling in the center, different from the one that had chased them, newer, cleaner. Two men stood beside it, both armed, both watching Dante with expressions that were half relief, half fury. "Boss," one of them said, "we thought—" "I'm fine," Dante cut him off. His eyes flicked to Selina. "She's with me." The men exchanged glances. "Sir, protocol?" "She's with me," Dante repeated. His voice left no room for argument. The men nodded. Dante pulled open the back door of the SUV and gestured for Selina to get in. She climbed inside, her legs barely holding her weight. The interior smelled like leather and gun oil. Dante slid in beside her. The door slammed shut. The engine roared to life. "Where are we going?" Selina asked. Dante didn't look at her. He just stared out the window at the rain-soaked forest disappearing behind them. "Somewhere they can't follow," he said. And as the SUV accelerated into the night, Selina realized she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. She wasn't a veterinarian anymore. She was collateral. And in Dante Moretti's world, collateral didn't survive long. The SUV climbed into the mountains for 2 hours straight. No music, no conversation. Just the hum of the engine and the rain beating against bulletproof glass. Selina sat pressed against the far door, watching Dante out of the corner of her eye. He'd gone completely still. Not asleep, she could tell by the tension in his shoulders, but somewhere else, somewhere dark. Blood had soaked through the makeshift bandage one of his men had wrapped around his shoulder. It needed cleaning, needed fresh stitches. She almost said something, then caught herself. This wasn't her clinic. He wasn't her patient. And whatever unspoken rules governed this world, she was pretty sure offering medical advice to a mafia boss wasn't high on the list of survival strategies. The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Young, maybe 25, scar cutting through his left eyebrow. "You good back there?" "Define good," Selina muttered. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Fair enough." Beside him, the other guard, older, graying, built like a concrete wall, didn't turn around, just kept his eyes on the road and one hand resting on the gun in his lap. They turned off the highway onto a narrow gravel path that wound deeper into the forest. Trees pressed in on both sides. No streetlights, no signs. Nothing to suggest anyone lived up here. Then the trees opened up. Selina's breath caught. The estate spread across the mountainside like something out of a fever dream. Modern architecture carved into rock and wood. Floor-to-ceiling windows, stone walls, steel beams, lights glowing warm against the rain. It looked like a fortress pretending to be a home, or maybe a home pretending to be a fortress. Armed men patrolled the perimeter. She counted 6 just in the front approach. Probably more she couldn't see. The SUV pulled up to the main entrance. The driver killed the engine. "We're here," he said. Dante opened his door without a word and stepped out into the rain. He moved stiffly, favoring his left side. Blood loss catching up. Selina followed. The air smelled like pine and wet earth. Cold bit through her soaked clothes. She wrapped her arms around herself and tried not to think about how far they were from anything resembling civilization. "This way?" The driver gestured toward the entrance. Inside the house was all clean lines and expensive minimalism. Polished concrete floors, exposed beams, furniture that probably cost more than Selina made in a year. But it didn't feel lived in. It felt like a stage set. Like someone had designed it to look impressive without actually caring if anyone felt comfortable. A woman appeared at the top of the staircase. She was younger than Selina expected. Late 20s, maybe? Dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail, tailored black suit, heels that clicked against the concrete like gunshots. Her face could have been carved from marble, beautiful in a cold, untouchable way. Her eyes locked on Dante. "You look like shit." "Serafina." Dante's voice was flat, tired. "Don't Serafina me." She descended the stairs with the controlled grace of a predator. "You were supposed to check in 4 hours ago. 4 hours, Dante. Do you have any idea what kind of chaos erupted when you went dark?" "I was busy." "Busy getting shot." Her gaze flicked to Selena, assessed her in about 2 seconds, dismissed her just as fast. "Who's this?" "The vet who patched me up." Serafina's expression didn't change, but something sharp flickered in her eyes. "You brought a civilian here." "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice." Not when Victor's men were 30 seconds from putting a bullet in her head. The name, Victor, seemed to shift something in the air. Serafina's jaw tightened. "Victor knows about her. He will soon enough." "Then she's a liability." Selena's hands balled into fists. "I'm standing right here." Serafina turned to look at her. Really look at her. It felt like being examined under a microscope. "You understand what you walked into?" "Not really," Selena said, "but I'm getting the impression it's bad." "Bad." Serafina's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "That's one word for it." Dante moved between them. "She stays." End of discussion. Dante. End of discussion. Brother and sister stared at each other. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Selena held her breath. Finally, Serafina looked away. "Fine. But if she becomes a problem, I'm handling it." "Noted." Serafina turned and walked toward what looked like an office. "Medical teams in the East Wing. Get yourself fixed before you bleed out on my floors." She disappeared through a doorway. The click of her heels faded. Dante exhaled slowly, pressed a hand to his shoulder. Fresh blood seeped between his fingers. "Your sister's charming," Selena said. "She's practical." "Is that what we're calling it?" Dante looked at her. Something almost human flickered across his face. Exhaustion, maybe. Or regret. "Come on, you need to see where you're staying." He led her up the stairs and down a long hallway lined with doors. Most were closed. A few stood open, revealing empty bedrooms that looked like hotel suites. Impersonal. Sterile. Dante stopped at the last door on the left. "This one's yours." The room inside was bigger than Selena's entire apartment back home. King-sized bed, attached bathroom, windows overlooking the forest. Someone had already laid out fresh clothes on the bed. Jeans, a sweater, underwear still in the package. "How did you—" "We keep supplies on hand," Dante said. "For emergencies." "Do you have a lot of emergencies that require women's underwear?" His mouth twitched, almost a smile. "More than you'd think." Selena walked to the window. Rain streaked the glass. Outside, she could see lights moving through the trees, patrols, guards, an army protecting one man. "How long do I have to stay here?" she asked. "Until it's safe." "And when will that be?" Dante didn't answer right away. When she turned around, he was leaning against the doorframe, looking like he might collapse any second. "I don't know," he said finally. "Could be days, could be weeks." "Weeks." The word tasted bitter. "I have a clinic, patients, a life." "You had a life." The bluntness of it hit like a slap. Selena's throat tightened. "So that's it? I'm just supposed to disappear?" "You're supposed to survive." Dante pushed off the doorframe, winced. "The clinic's gone. We'll make sure your animals are taken care of. Anything you left behind, we'll handle it." "You can't just erase me." "Watch." He turned to leave. "Wait." Selena's voice came out sharper than she meant. "Your shoulder. Those stitches won't hold much longer." Dante glanced back. "I'll have the medical team look at it. I can do it now." "You've done enough. Don't be stupid. You're bleeding through your shirt." They stared at each other. Rain hammered the windows. Somewhere in the house, a door slammed. "Fine," Dante said. "You've got 10 minutes." Selena grabbed a first aid kit from the bathroom. Of course, there was a fully stocked first aid kit in the bathroom, and gestured to the bed. "Sit." Dante sat. started unbuttoning his ruined shirt. The fabric peeled away from the wound with a wet, ugly sound. The stitches Selena had put in at the clinic had torn, not completely, but enough. Blood oozed from 3 separate points. Jesus, she muttered. You couldn't have mentioned this was getting worse? It wasn't important. You're an idiot. So I've been told. Selena threaded a fresh needle. Her hands were steadier now, adrenaline gone, just muscle memory and focus. This is gonna hurt. I know. She pushed the needle through skin. Dante's jaw tightened, but he didn't make a sound. She worked quickly, efficiently, closing the torn sections and reinforcing the original stitches. Up close, she could see other scars, old wounds, a life written in scar tissue. How many times have you been shot? She asked. Lost count. That's not reassuring. Wasn't trying to be. She tied off the last stitch and sat back. Done. Try not to get shot again in the next 48 hours. Dante looked down at the fresh stitches, then at her. Thank you. The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. She nodded and started packing up the first aid kit, suddenly very aware of how close they were, how quiet the room had gotten. You should rest, Dante said. He stood, pulling on a clean shirt someone had left folded on the dresser. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. More complicated than today. Much. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the frame. Selena. She looked up. Don't leave this room tonight. Don't wander. Don't explore. Just stay here. Why? Because not everyone in this house is on my side. The door closed behind him before she could ask what the hell that meant. Selena stood alone in the too-big room, listening to the rain, and tried very hard not to think about the fact that she was trapped in a fortress full of armed criminals who might or might not want her dead. She didn't sleep. How could she? Every sound made her jump, footsteps in the hallway, doors opening and closing, the low murmur of voices from somewhere below. She lay on top of the bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling and running through every decision that had led her here. She could have left him outside to die. She could have called the cops. She could have refused to get in the SUV, but she hadn't, and now she was here, in a house full of killers, protected by a man who'd admitted she was already as good as dead. Around 3 in the morning, she heard shouting. Selena sat up. The voices were distant but clear, angry. One of them was definitely Serafina. The other, male, deeper, she didn't recognize. She crept to the door and pressed her ear against it. Can't be serious. Liability we can't afford. Your call to make. The voices faded. Footsteps. Then silence. Selena's heart hammered. They were talking about her. Had to be. She backed away from the door and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to steady her breathing. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't. A soft knock made her jump. It's me. Dante's voice came through the door. Can I come in? Selena opened the door. Dante stood in the hallway, looking marginally better than he had earlier. He'd showered, changed. The blood was gone, but exhaustion carved deep lines around his eyes. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Could you? No. He walked past her into the room, moved to the window, stood there with his hands in his pockets, staring out at the rain-soaked forest. There's going to be a meeting tomorrow, he said. My people, inner circle. They need to be briefed on what happened. And what are you going to tell them? The truth. That Victor's people ambushed me, that you saved my life, that you're under my protection now. Selena's stomach twisted. Will they accept that? Some will. Others won't. What happens if they don't? Dante didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Careful. Then things get complicated. They're already complicated. Not like this. Selena wrapped her arms around herself. The weight of it all, the impossibility of survival, the sheer insanity of being here, pressed down until she could barely breathe. I don't belong in this world, she said. I know. So why am I here? Dante turned to look at her. In the dim light, his eyes were softer, less silver, more gray. Because I made a choice, and now you have to live with it. That's not fair. No, it's not. They stood there in the silence, rain against glass, the distant sound of guards changing shifts. Get some sleep, Dante said finally. You're going to need it. He left without another word. Selena crawled back into bed and pulled the covers over her head. She didn't sleep. Just lay there in the dark, listening to her own heartbeat and wondering how much longer it would keep beating. Morning came gray and cold. Someone knocked on the door at 7. A woman Selena hadn't seen before. Mid-40s, no-nonsense expression, carrying a tray with coffee and toast. "Breakfast," she said. Set the tray on the dresser. "Meeting's at 9. Someone will come get you." Wait. But the woman was already gone. Selena ate the toast mechanically. The coffee was strong enough to strip paint. It helped. At exactly 9, the young driver from last night appeared at her door. Time to go. He led her downstairs to a room that looked like a war council chamber. Long table, leather chairs, screens on the walls showing security feeds from around the property. A dozen people were already seated. Most of them looked like they could kill her without breaking a sweat. Dante sat at the head of the table, Serafina to his right. They both looked up when Selena entered. "Sit," Dante said, gestured to an empty chair near the middle of the table. Selena sat. Every eye in the room tracked her movement. "This is Dr. Selena Vale," Dante said. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "She's the reason I'm alive. She's under my protection. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave now." No one moved. "Good." Dante leaned forward. "Now, let's talk about Victor." The next hour was a brutal education in how organized crime actually worked. Viktor Sarov, Russian, former military, built a mercenary empire that operated all over the West Coast. He'd been trying to move in on Moretti territory for 2 years. Small conflicts at first, territory disputes, shipment hijackings. But 3 months ago, things escalated. Bombings, assassinations, full-scale war. And last night's ambush wasn't random. "He knew exactly where you'd be," said a man Selena didn't recognize. Older, silver hair, expensive suit. "Someone tipped him off." "Obviously," Serafina said. Her voice was ice. "The question is who?" Silence around the table. The kind of silence that meant everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. "We have a leak," Dante said. "Someone inside fed Victor my location." "We need to find them," Silverhair said. Before they what?" Another voice, younger, angry. "Before they get more of us killed? We should have handled Victor months ago. Instead, we played defense and look where it got us." "Shut up, Marco." Serafina's tone could cut glass. Marco, mid-30s, scar down his neck, rage simmering just under the surface, shot to his feet. "Don't tell me to shut up. Half this table thinks the same thing. We've been weak, reactive. That's why Victor thinks he can pick us off." "Sit down," Dante said. "Why? So you can make another speech about strategy? About patience?" Marco's hand slammed on the table. "Your patience got 3 of our people killed last week. Your strategy got you shot. Maybe it's time for new leadership." The room went dead silent. Selena's pulse hammered in her ears. She didn't understand all the dynamics at play, but she understood enough to know that what Marco just said was tantamount to a declaration of war. Dante stood slowly. His face was completely calm. That was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been angry. "You want to challenge me?" he asked quietly. Marco's jaw worked. "I'm saying what everyone's thinking." "Then say it clearly. Do you want my position?" The room held its breath. Marco looked around the table, looking for support. A few people wouldn't meet his eyes. Others watched with carefully neutral expressions. "I want what's best for the family," Marco said finally. "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer you're getting." Dante walked around the table, slow, deliberate, stopped directly in front of Marco. The height difference was minimal, but the power dynamic was not. "You're right about one thing," Dante said. "We've been reactive, defensive. That changes now." "How?" "We're going after Victor, directly. No more waiting. No more strategy sessions." Dante's voice was cold as winter. "We burn his operation to the ground. Every warehouse, every contact, every asset, and when he's got nothing left, we burn him too." Marco blinked. "You're serious?" "Do I look like I'm joking?" Around the table, expressions shifted. Surprise, approval. In Serafina's case, something that might have been satisfaction. "When?" Silverhair asked. 48 hours, Dante said. I want full intel by tomorrow night. Every location Victor operates. Every person on his payroll. Everything. That's going to take, then work faster. Dante turned and walked back to his seat. The meeting shifted. People started talking logistics, numbers, tactics. Selena tried to follow, but it was like listening to a language she only half understood. After another 30 minutes, Dante dismissed everyone. The room emptied. Serafina lingered. You sure about this? She asked. No. But you're doing it anyway. I don't have a choice. Marco's right. We've been weak. If I don't act now, someone else will. Serafina glanced at Selena. And her? She stays here, where I can keep her safe. She's going to become a problem. She already is. Serafina's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Just make sure you know what you're doing. She left. Dante looked at Selena. You okay? Define okay. Fair question. Selena stood. Her legs felt shaky. What was that about? That thing with Marco? Power struggle. Happens in every organization. He basically called you weak. He did. And you're just letting that go? Dante's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Who said I was letting it go? The way he said it made Selena's skin crawl. What are you going to do to him? Nothing, yet. But if he steps out of line again, Dante shrugged. That's how this works. Everyone's loyal until they're not. Sounds exhausting. It is. He walked toward the door, paused. Stay close to the house today. Don't wander off the property. Where would I even go? Nowhere. That's the point. The door closed behind him. Selena stood alone in the empty war room, staring at the security feed showing armed men patrolling the perimeter, and tried very hard not to think about what happened to people who stepped out of line in Dante's world. She spent the rest of the day trying to stay out of the way. The house was massive, too big for the handful of people who seemed to actually live there. She wandered the hallways, found a library filled with books that looked expensive but unread, a gym with equipment that probably cost more than her car, and a kitchen where a woman about her age was chopping vegetables. You're the vet, the woman said without looking up. Word travels fast. Always does. The woman glanced at her. Green eyes, freckles, an accent Selena couldn't quite place. I'm Lucia. I manage the house. Manage? Cook. Clean. Make sure no one bleeds on the furniture. Lucia's mouth twitched. You want coffee? Please. Lucia poured 2 cups and slid one across the counter. So, you saved the boss's life. I stitched up a gunshot wound. I wouldn't call that saving. He would, which means you're either the luckiest person alive or the unluckiest. Lucia sipped her coffee. Haven't decided which yet. Me neither. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the kitchen window, Selena could see 2 guards smoking cigarettes near the tree line. How long have you worked here? Selena asked. 3 years. You like it? Lucia considered. It pays well. No one bothers me. And Dante's a decent boss as far as criminals go. That's a low bar. You'd be surprised how low some bars get. The kitchen door opened. Serafina walked in, phone pressed to her ear, looking like she hadn't slept. She gestured to Lucia. We need food for 15 people in the East Conference Room. 20 minutes. On it, Serafina's eyes flicked to Selena. You. Come with me. Selena followed her out of the kitchen and down a hallway to a small office. Serafina closed the door and leaned against it. We need to talk, she said. About? About the fact that you're a liability this family can't afford. Selena's hands tightened around her coffee cup. Your brother seems to think differently. My brother's thinking with his guilt, not his brain. Serafina crossed her arms. You understand what's happening here? Victor's going to use you. He's going to find out who you are, where you came from, everyone you've ever cared about. And he's going to leverage all of it to hurt Dante. I don't have anyone. Everyone has someone. Selena thought about her clinic, her few regular clients, the waitress at the diner who knew her coffee order. Not much, but enough. So what do you want me to do? She asked. Leave. Tonight. We'll set you up somewhere safe, new identity, money, protection until this blows over. And then what? Then you disappear. Permanently. Selena stared at her. You're asking me to erase myself. I'm asking you to survive. Your brother said the same thing when he brought me here. Serafina's expression hardened. My brother made a mistake bringing you here. I'm trying to fix it. Does he know you're having this conversation? No, and he's not going to. They looked at each other. Two women on opposite sides of a line neither of them had chosen. I'm not leaving, Selena said finally. Why not? Because running didn't work out so well for me the first time. Serafina's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Selena set her coffee cup down. It means I've spent most of my life running from things. Bad relationships, bad choices, bad memories. And every time I run, I end up somewhere worse. So maybe this time I stay. You'll die. Maybe. But at least I'll die standing still. Serafina studied her for a long moment. Then unexpectedly, she laughed. It wasn't a warm sound, more like broken glass. You're either very brave or very stupid, she said. Probably both. Fine. Stay. But when Victor comes for you, and he will, don't say I didn't warn you. She left. Selena stood alone in the office, hands shaking, wondering if she'd just made the second worst decision of her life. The first, of course, was opening that door. That night, something shifted. Selena woke to voices in the hallway. Low, urgent. She checked her phone. 2 a.m. She crept to the door and pressed her ear against it. Can't confirm the source. Doesn't matter. If the intel's good. Massive risk. No choice. Footsteps. Then silence. Selena opened the door a crack. The hallway was empty, but at the far end she could see light spilling from under Dante's office door. She shouldn't go, she knew she shouldn't, but her feet moved anyway. She walked down the hallway and stopped outside the office. Voices inside. Dante and someone else. You're sure? Dante's voice. Positive. Victor's moving a major shipment tomorrow night. Weapons. Cash. The whole operation. Location. Harbor District. Warehouse 12. That's a trap. Probably, but if it's not, it's still not worth the risk. With respect, boss, we can't afford not to take it. Marco's already questioning your leadership. If we pass on this... A pause. Then, fine. But we do it my way. Full team. No cowboys. And if anything feels wrong, we abort. Understood? Yes, sir. Footsteps approaching the door. Selena scrambled back down the hallway, made it to her room just as the office door opened. She pressed herself against her own door, heart hammering, listening to footsteps fade in the opposite direction. Then the house went quiet again. Selena climbed back into bed but didn't sleep. Her mind raced. They were walking into a trap. She knew it. They knew it. But they were going anyway because pride and politics and power all demanded it. And tomorrow night, people were going to die. Morning came too fast. Selena found Dante in the gym, beating the hell out of a heavy bag. Sweat soaked through his shirt. His shoulder, the one she'd stitched twice, moved stiffly. You're going to tear those stitches, she said from the doorway. Dante didn't stop, just kept hitting. So fix them again. Or you could stop being an idiot. He finally stopped, turned to look at her. His knuckles were raw. Blood seeped through the wrap on his left hand. Something on your mind? He asked. I heard you last night, the conversation about the warehouse. Dante's expression didn't change. You shouldn't eavesdrop. And you shouldn't walk into obvious traps. It's not your concern. It is if you get killed and leave me stranded here. Dante grabbed a towel and wiped his face. I'm not going to get killed. You don't know that. No, but I know if I don't go, I lose credibility. And in this business, credibility is the only thing keeping you alive. Selena walked further into the gym. So you're willing to die for your reputation? If necessary. That's insane. Dante threw the towel aside, walked toward her, stopped close enough that she could see the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. You want to know what's insane? He asked quietly. The fact that I brought you here. The fact that I'm keeping you alive when the smart move would be to cut my losses. The fact that every time I look at you, I'm reminded that I'm not the monster everyone thinks I am. His voice dropped. That's insane. Selena's breath caught. They stood there, too close. the air between them charged with something dangerous. Then Dante stepped back. "Stay in the house tonight," he said. "No matter what you hear, no matter what happens, you stay inside." "Dante, promise me." She wanted to argue, to tell him he was making a mistake, but the look in his eyes stopped her. "I promise," she whispered. He nodded once, then left. Selena stood alone in the gym, listening to her own heartbeat, and tried very hard not to think about the fact that she might never see him alive again. The day dragged. Lunch came and went. Selena barely ate. She wandered the house like a ghost, watching preparations happen around her. Men cleaning weapons, checking equipment, speaking in low voices about routes and timing and contingencies. Around 6, Serafina found her in the library. "You look terrible," Serafina said. "Thanks. He's done this before, walked into worse. He'll be fine." "You don't sound convinced." Serafina sat down across from her. For the first time since they'd met, she looked almost human, tired, worried. "He's my brother," she said quietly. "Of course I'm worried, but worrying doesn't change anything." "Then what does?" "Making sure he comes back." Serafina stood. "I'm going with him tonight. While we're gone, you're in charge here." Selena blinked. "What?" "Lucia knows what to do if something goes wrong. But you're the face. If anyone calls, if anyone shows up, you're Dante's representative. Understood?" "I don't..." "Understood?" Selena swallowed hard. "Yes." "Good." Serafina walked to the door, paused. "For what it's worth. I think you're making a mistake staying here, but I respect it." Then she was gone. At 8 o'clock, they left. Selena watched from the upstairs window as a convoy of black SUVs rolled down the driveway. Dante in the lead vehicle, Serafina in the second, 15 armed men between them. The taillights disappeared into the trees, the house went quiet. Selena paced, waited, tried not to imagine all the ways this could go wrong. At 10:30, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then did. "Hello?" Silence, then breathing. "Dr. Vale." The voice was male, accented, Russian. "Such a pleasure to finally speak with you." Selena's blood went cold. "Who is this?" "You know who I am, just as I know who you are. The veterinarian who saved Dante Moretti's life." A pause. "Tell me, doctor, do you have any idea what you've gotten yourself into?" Her hand tightened around the phone. "How did you get this number?" "I get everything I want, eventually, including you." The line went dead. Selena stood frozen, phone pressed to her ear, heart hammering so hard she thought her ribs might crack. Victor. He'd called her, directly, which meant he knew where she was, who she was, everything. She ran, down the stairs, through the house, found Lucia in the kitchen. "We need to call Dante," Selena said. Her voice came out high and thin. "Right now." Lucia looked up, saw her face. "What happened?" "Victor just called me." Lucia went pale. She grabbed her phone and started dialing. It rang, and praying, and sheeing. No answer. She tried Serafina. Same thing. "They're not picking up," Lucia said. "What does that mean?" "It means they're either in the middle of it or..." Lucia's voice cracked. "Or something went wrong." The lights went out, complete darkness. Selena's breath caught. "What?" "Generator should kick in," Lucia whispered. "Any second." It didn't. Somewhere in the house, glass shattered. Lucia grabbed Selena's arm. "Run!" They ran. Through the dark house, Selena's hands found walls, doors. Nothing familiar. Behind them, footsteps. Heavy, multiple people, voices shouting in Russian. Lucia pulled her into what felt like a closet, shut the door. They pressed against the back wall, breathing hard, trying to stay silent. Footsteps passed, then came back. The door exploded inward. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. 3 men, armed. One of them grabbed Selena by the hair and dragged her out. She screamed, fought. Her fists connected with someone's face. They hit her back, hard. Her vision went white. When it cleared, she was on the floor, hands zip-tied behind her back. Lucia beside her, blood running from her nose. One of the men crouched in front of Selena. He was young, scar across his forehead, eyes like a shark. "Victor sends his regards," he said in heavily accented English. Then he hauled her to her feet and dragged her toward the door. Selena twisted, fought, screamed. No one came. The last thing she saw before they threw her into a van was the Moretti estate burning. Flames climbing the walls, smoke pouring into the sky. Everything Dante had built. Gone. The van doors slammed shut. Darkness swallowed her. And somewhere in that darkness, Selena realized the truth. She'd been right. This was the point of no return. And there was no way back. The van smelled like oil and blood and fear. Selena's wrists screamed where the zip ties cut into skin. Her shoulder throbbed where one of Victor's men had slammed her against the wall. Every bump in the road sent fresh pain shooting through her ribs. She couldn't see. They'd thrown a hood over her head. Black fabric that smelled like someone else's sweat. She could hear, though. The engine, tires on pavement, men speaking Russian in low-clipped voices, and breathing. Someone else was in here with her. "Lucia?" Selena whispered. A grunt, then, "Yeah. You okay?" Define okay. The van hit a pothole. They both slammed against the metal floor. Selena bit back a scream. "Where are they taking us?" she asked. "Nowhere good." One of the men barked something in Russian. A boot connected with Selena's leg. Not hard enough to break anything, just hard enough to make the point. Shut up. They drove for what felt like hours. Maybe it was only 30 minutes. Time had stopped making sense. All Selena could focus on was breathing. In and out. In and out. Don't panic. Don't think about what comes next. Finally, the van stopped. Doors opened. Hands grabbed her and dragged her out. Cold air hit her face. She could smell water, gasoline, rust. They were at the docks. Someone cut the zip ties. Her hands dropped and agony shot through her shoulders as blood rushed back into her fingers. Before she could move, new restraints locked around her wrists. Metal this time. Handcuffs chained to something above her head. The hood came off. Selena blinked against harsh fluorescent light. She was in a warehouse. Concrete floor. Exposed beams. Shipping containers stacked against one wall. The kind of place where people disappeared and no one ever found the bodies. Lucia hung from chains a few feet away. Blood crusted her lip. Her left eye was swelling shut. "Welcome, Dr. Vale." The voice came from behind her. Selena twisted as far as the chains would let her. A man stepped into view. Late 40s, graying hair slicked back. Expensive suit that probably cost more than her car. He moved with the casual confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. "Victor Sarov." "You're smaller than I expected," he said. His English was perfect, barely an accent. Dante Moretti's great weakness. I imagined someone more impressive. "Go to hell," Selena said. Victor smiled. "I've been. Wasn't for me." He walked closer, stopped just out of reach. "Do you know why you're here?" "Because you're a psychopath?" "Because you're leverage," Victor gestured around the warehouse. "All of this, the kidnapping, the theatrics, it's not about you. It's about breaking a man who spent his entire life refusing to break." Selena's stomach twisted. "Dante?" "Exactly." Victor pulled out his phone, started typing. "Right now, your protector is receiving a message. A photograph of you. Coordinates. And a very simple ultimatum. His empire for your life. He won't give you anything. Won't he?" Victor's smile widened. "You don't know him as well as you think." He stepped back, nodded to one of his men. "Make her comfortable. We have at least 6 hours before Moretti arrives. I want her intact." The man moved towards Selena. She tried to pull away, but the chains held. He grabbed her face, fingers digging into her jaw, forcing her to look at him. "Pretty," he said in broken English. "Boss say no touching, but maybe later." A gunshot cracked through the air. The man's head snapped back. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Selena screamed. Victor sighed, lowered the gun. "I said intact. That means no one touches her. Anyone else need clarification?" The other men shook their heads. "Good." Victor holstered the gun and walked toward the exit. "I have arrangements to make. Don't let her bleed out." He left. The body lay 3 feet from Selena, blood pooling on the concrete. She stared at it, couldn't look away. The man's eyes were still open, still staring at nothing. She'd seen death before. Animals, mostly. A few patients she couldn't save, but this was different. This was execution, cold, calculated. A man killed for stepping half an inch out of line. Selena! Lucia's voice cut through the shock. Look at me! Selena dragged her eyes away from the corpse. You need to stay focused, Lucia said. Her voice was steady despite the blood and the chains and the impossibility of their situation. When Dante gets here, if he gets here, when he gets here, things are going to happen fast. You need to be ready. Ready for what? To run, to fight, whatever it takes. Lucia's good eye locked on hers. You understand? This isn't a rescue mission. This is war, and in war, people die. Selena's throat tightened. I'm not a soldier. You are now. The hours crawled. They didn't give her water, didn't let her sit. Just left her hanging there, shoulders screaming, wrists going numb. Every time she tried to adjust her weight, the chains cut deeper. Lucia passed out around hour 3. Her head lolled forward. Blood dripped from her split lip onto the concrete. Selena tried to stay awake, tried to keep her mind sharp, but exhaustion dragged at her like quicksand. Her vision blurred. The edges of the warehouse went soft. She thought about her clinic, about the life she'd built in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Quiet, safe, simple, gone now. All of it burned because she'd opened a door in a rainstorm. Footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Selena's head jerked up. Multiple people, moving fast. Victor appeared first. He'd changed clothes. Combat gear now. Vest, weapons. He looked like he was going to war. Behind him came more men, at least a dozen, all armed, all moving with military precision. Wake her up, Victor said. One of the men threw water in Lucia's face. She came to with a gasp, choking and sputtering. Victor checked his watch. Any minute now. What happens when he gets here? Selena asked. Her voice came out hoarse, broken. Victor glanced at her. The great Dante Moretti offers himself in exchange for you. I accept. Then I kill him in front of everyone who's ever feared his name. His empire crumbles. His territory becomes mine. And you? He smiled. You get to watch. You're insane. I'm pragmatic. Dante's made himself vulnerable because of you. That's not my fault. That's his. An explosion rocked the building. The blast came from outside, close. The walls shook. Dust rained from the rafters. Victor's men scattered, weapons up, voices shouting orders. Another explosion, closer this time. The loading dock doors blew inward in a spray of metal and fire. Armed men poured through the opening, black tactical gear, faces covered. They moved like a wave of destruction. Fast, efficient, overwhelming. Gunfire erupted. Selena pressed herself against the chains, trying to make herself as small as possible. Bullets tore through the air. Men screamed. Blood sprayed across concrete. Through the chaos, she saw him. Dante. He moved through the firefight like death itself, gun in each hand, every shot precise, every movement calculated. He didn't hesitate, didn't flinch, just kept advancing, cutting through Victor's men like they were nothing. Behind him came Serafina and the rest of his people, a coordinated assault that hit like a hurricane. Victor's men fell back, regrouped, returned fire from behind shipping containers. Dante kept coming. A bullet grazed his shoulder. He didn't slow down, just switched hands and kept shooting. He was 30 feet away. 20. 10. Then Victor stepped out from behind a container with a gun pressed against Lucia's head. Everything stopped. Dante froze. His weapon stayed raised, but his finger lifted off the trigger. Drop them, Victor said calmly, or I paint the walls with her brain. Dante's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked to Selena, then back to Victor. Let them go, he said. Drop. Your guns. A pause that stretched for an eternity. Then Dante set both weapons on the ground. Kick them away. He did. Victor smiled. Good. Now, your people. Tell them to fall back. Dante raised his voice. Stand down. Around the warehouse, gunfire ceased. Dante's men lowered their weapons but didn't retreat. All the way back, Victor said. Outside. Or I start executing hostages. Dante's hands balled into fists. Do it. Serafina appeared at his shoulder. Dante. I said do it. She stared at him, disbelief carved into every line of her face. Then she turned to the others. "You heard him. Fall back." Slowly, reluctantly, Dante's people retreated through the blown-out loading dock. Victor waited until they were gone. Then he lowered the gun from Lucia's head and aimed it at Dante instead. "You know what I find fascinating?" Victor asked conversationally. "You built an empire on fear, made yourself untouchable, and then you threw it all away for a woman you barely know." He shook his head. "Love makes men weak." "Let them go," Dante said. "You've got me. That's what you wanted." "True. But I want something else, too." Victor gestured to his remaining men. "Bring her." Two men moved towards Selena, unlocked the chains. She collapsed, but they caught her, dragging her forward until she was standing, barely, a few feet from Dante. His eyes met hers. For just a second, something human flickered across his face. Regret, grief, an apology he couldn't speak out loud. "Here's what's going to happen," Victor said. "You're going to watch me kill her, slowly. And when I'm done, when you've lost the one thing that made you human, then I'll kill you too." Dante's voice came out flat. "Dead. There's a third option, which is, I give you everything, territory, assets, every operation I control. You let her live, you let Lucia live, and you let them walk out of here." Victor laughed, actually laughed. "You think I care about your empire? I can take that whenever I want. What I care about is breaking you. And the only way to do that is through her." He raised the gun, aimed it at Selena's head. "Any last words?" he asked. Selena looked at Dante, at the man who'd stumbled into her clinic bleeding and desperate, at the criminal who'd dragged her into hell and somehow made her care whether he lived or died. "It wasn't your fault," she said quietly. Dante's jaw tightened. "Yes, it was." Victor's finger moved to the trigger. Then Lucia moved. She ripped free from the man holding her and threw herself at Victor. Her hands clawed at his face. He stumbled backward. The gun went off. The bullet went wide. Dante lunged. He grabbed the gun Victor had dropped earlier and fired. Once, twice, 3 times. Victor's men fell. Chaos erupted again. Selena hit the ground as gunfire tore through the air. Someone grabbed her arm, Dante, and dragged her toward cover behind a shipping container. "Stay down," he said. "Lucia." "I'll get her. Stay. Down." He disappeared back into the firefight. Selena pressed herself against the cold metal and tried to breathe. Her whole body shook. Adrenaline crashed through her system in waves. More gunshots, screaming, the wet sound of bodies hitting concrete. Then silence. Footsteps approached. Selena tensed, ready to run or fight or die. Dante appeared around the edge of the container. Blood soaked his shirt. His face was gray with exhaustion. "Come on," he said, offered his hand. She took it. He pulled her upright and led her through the warehouse. Bodies everywhere. Victor's men, some of Dante's. The floor was slick with blood. Lucia sat against a wall, Serafina crouched beside her. The older woman's face was pale, but she was breathing. "She's going to be okay," Serafina said. Bullet went through her shoulder. Clean. Selena knelt beside them. Her hands moved on autopilot, checking the wound, applying pressure. Medical training kicking in even though her brain had mostly checked out. "Where's Victor?" she asked. No one answered. She looked up, followed their gazes to the center of the warehouse. Victor lay on his back, eyes open, staring at nothing. 3 bullet holes center mass. Dead. "We need to move," Dante said. His voice was rough, tired. "His people will send reinforcements. We've got maybe 10 minutes. They moved. Dante's men appeared from outside, helping carry Lucia. Serafina coordinated the retreat with the cold efficiency of someone who'd done this before. Selena stumbled along in a daze, following orders, trying not to think about the bodies or the blood or the fact that she'd just watched multiple people die. They piled into SUVs, engines roared to life. Tires screamed against pavement. Selena sat in the back, Dante beside her, watching the warehouse disappear in the rearview mirror. Smoke rose from inside. Someone had set fires to cover their tracks. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Safe house, different location, off the grid." Dante leaned his head back against the seat, his eyes closed. "You're okay?" I don't know. Fair. They drove in silence. The adrenaline was wearing off now, leaving Selena hollow and shaking. She wrapped her arms around herself and tried to keep her teeth from chattering. Dante opened his eyes, looked at her. This wasn't supposed to happen. What part? Any of it. His voice cracked. Victor wasn't supposed to know about you, wasn't supposed to get to the estate. You weren't supposed to... He stopped, swallowed hard. You almost died because of me. But I didn't. That doesn't make it okay. Selena stared at him, at the exhaustion carved into his face, at the blood soaking through his clothes, at the way his hands shook even though he tried to hide it. Why did you come for me? She asked. What kind of question is that? A real one. You could have cut your losses, let Victor have me, saved your empire. Dante's jaw worked. For a long moment, he didn't answer, then, because you were right. About what? It was my fault, all of it. The ambush at your clinic, the kidnapping, everything. He looked at her with those cold silver eyes that suddenly didn't seem quite so cold anymore. And I don't get to walk away from my mistakes, not when they involve someone who saved my life. The SUV turned onto a narrow dirt road. Trees pressed in on both sides. So what now? Selena asked. Now we disappear. Regroup. Figure out who leaked our location to Victor. You think someone in your organization sold you out? I know they did. Victor knew exactly where to hit, exactly when. That doesn't happen by accident. The SUV pulled up to a small cabin buried deep in the woods. Nothing fancy, just 4 walls and a roof and enough distance from civilization that no one would find them. They unloaded, got Lucia inside. Serafina started barking orders, setting up a perimeter, establishing watch rotations, checking for surveillance. Dante pulled Selena aside. I need to tell you something, he said. The tone of his voice made her stomach drop. What? He looked away. Couldn't meet her eyes. Victor wasn't wrong about me using you. Selena's blood went cold. What are you talking about? When I brought you to the estate, when I told you it was for your protection. Dante's hands balled into fists. That was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. Dante, my people, Serafina, the others, they wanted to use you as bait. Draw Victor out. Make him think you were my weakness so he'd come for you and we could hit him when he was exposed. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Selena stepped back. You were going to use me as bait. It was the plan, at first. At first, her voice came out shrill, broken. What the hell does that mean? It means somewhere along the way the plan changed. You stopped being a strategy and started being... He stopped, shook his head. It doesn't matter. What matters is you deserve to know, before this goes any further, before you trust me more than you should. Selena's hands were shaking. How long were you planning to tell me this? I don't know. Maybe never. So why tell me now? Dante finally looked at her, and the expression on his face, raw, exhausted, devastated, almost broke her. Because you almost died tonight, he said quietly. And if you're going to stay in this world, you need to know exactly who you're standing next to. The silence stretched between them, heavy, suffocating. You're right, Selena said finally. Her voice was ice. I should have left you to die. She turned and walked away. Dante didn't follow. Selena found an empty room in the back of the cabin and shut the door. Locked it. Slid down against the wall until she was sitting on the floor with her knees pulled to her chest. Then she let herself cry. Not the pretty kind of crying, the ugly kind. The kind that ripped through her chest and left her gasping for air. The kind that came from realizing she'd been a fool. Again, she'd trusted him, actually trusted him. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, he was different, that the connection between them meant something real. But it was all a lie. She was bait, a pawn, a tool to be used and discarded when convenient. A knock on the door made her look up. Go away, she said. It's me. Serafina's voice. Open the door. I said go away. I'm not Dante, and you're going to want to hear this. Selena didn't move for a long moment. Then she dragged herself upright and unlocked the door. Serafina stood in the hallway. She'd changed clothes, cleaned up. but exhaustion carved deep lines around her eyes. "You told him off," she said. Not a question. "He deserved it." "He did." Serafina walked past her into the room, sat on the edge of the bed. "For what it's worth, I told him this would blow up in his face." "You knew." "Of course I knew. It was my plan." Selena's hands balled into fists. "So you used me too?" "Yes, but unlike my brother, I'm not going to apologize for it." Serafina looked at her with those cold, calculating eyes. "You want the truth? Fine. You were a liability from the moment Dante brought you in. The smart move was to leverage you. Make Victor think you mattered so we could control where and when he struck. Except the plan didn't work." "No, it didn't because Dante got in his own way." Serafina's expression shifted. Something almost like respect flickered across her face. "He was supposed to keep his distance, stay objective. Instead, he did the one thing I've never seen him do in 20 years of this business." "What?" "He started caring whether you lived or died." Selena's throat tightened. "That doesn't make it okay." "No, it doesn't. But it does make it real." Serafina stood. "You want to hate him? Go ahead. He's given you plenty of reasons. But don't pretend he's the same man who walked into your clinic. That man would have let you die tonight to save his empire. The man out there burned it all down to keep you alive." She walked to the door, paused. "For what it's worth," she said, "I think you're good for him. You make him human again, and in this world that's either going to save him or get him killed." The door closed behind her. Selena stood alone in the empty room and tried to figure out which option terrified her more. She didn't leave the room for hours. Eventually, exhaustion won. She collapsed on the bed and fell into a sleep so deep it felt like drowning. When she woke, pale light filtered through the window. Morning. Maybe afternoon. She'd lost track. Her body ached. Every muscle screamed. Her wrists were raw from the handcuffs. Her ribs throbbed where Victor's man had hit her. She dragged herself to the bathroom, looked at her reflection. She barely recognized the woman staring back. Hollow eyes, bruised face, hair matted with blood that wasn't all hers. This was what survival looked like. A knock on the door. "Yeah?" she called. "Food's ready?" Lucia's voice. "If you're hungry." Selena wasn't, but she opened the door anyway. Lucia stood in the hallway, one arm in a sling. The swelling around her eye had gone down, but the bruising was spectacular. Purple and yellow and black all blended together. "You look like hell," Selena said. "You should see the other guys." Lucia's mouth twitched. "Oh, wait. They're dead." They walked to the main room together. The cabin was bigger than it looked from outside. Open floor plan, kitchen bleeding into a living area, windows overlooking dense forest. Serafina sat at a table covered in laptops and phones, coordinating something with 3 other people Selena didn't recognize. Dante stood by the window, staring out at the trees. He turned when they entered. His eyes found Selena, held for a moment, then looked away. "Sit," Lucia said. Pushed Selena toward the kitchen. "Eat." There was food laid out. Sandwiches, fruit, coffee that smelled like it could strip paint. Selena picked up a cup and wrapped her hands around it, let the heat seep into her fingers. "How's the shoulder?" she asked Lucia. "Hurts like a bitch. But I'll live." "You saved my life back there." Lucia shrugged with her good shoulder. "You saved Dante's life first." Seemed fair. They ate in silence. Around them, the house hummed with quiet activity. People coming and going. Low conversations about security and next steps and damage control. Eventually, Serafina stood. "We need to talk. All of us." Everyone gathered in the living room. Dante stayed by the window. Wouldn't look at Selena. "Victor's dead," Serafina said. "Which should be good news. Except it's not." "Why not?" one of the men asked. "Because he wasn't working alone. Someone inside our organization fed him intel, location, timing, security details, everything he needed to hit us where it hurt." The room went quiet. "You're sure?" Dante asked. "Positive. The attack on the estate was too precise. They knew exactly which defenses were weakest, where the generator was, how many guards were on rotation." Serafina's expression was ice. "We have a traitor." "Who?" Lucia asked. "That's what we need to figure out." Serafina pulled up something on her laptop. "I've narrowed it down to 3 people who had access to all the relevant information." She turned the screen around. 3 faces appeared. 2 men. 1 woman. All people Selena vaguely recognized from the estate. Marco, Dante said quietly. You think it was Marco. He had motive. He challenged you publicly, questioned your leadership, and he was conveniently absent during the warehouse assault. Where is he now? We're looking. Dante's jaw tightened. Find him. Bring him in. Alive. And if he runs? He won't get far. Serafina nodded, turned back to her laptop. Selena set down her coffee. Her hands were shaking again. What happens when you find him? Everyone looked at her. What do you think happens? Serafina asked. You're going to kill him. Yes. The bluntness of it stole Selena's breath. Just like that. Just like that. Serafina's eyes were cold. He betrayed us, got people killed, burned down our home. That's not something you walk away from. Selena looked at Dante. He still wouldn't meet her eyes. And you're okay with this? She asked him. Finally, he looked at her. No, I'm not okay with it. But it's necessary. Necessary. Yes. You're going to execute someone because it's necessary. Dante's expression didn't change. Welcome to my world. Selena stood. Her chair scraped against the floor. I can't do this. Selena, no, I can't. Her voice cracked. You used me, lied to me, and now you're talking about murder like it's a business transaction. I can't. She didn't finish, just turned and walked back to her room. Behind her, silence. Then Lucia's voice, quiet. Give her time. Selena slammed the door, locked it, pressed her back against the wood, and tried to breathe. This was who they were, who Dante was. Killers, criminals, people who solved problems with bullets and didn't lose sleep over it, and she'd almost convinced herself she could exist in that world. Hours passed. Selena lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what came next. She couldn't stay here, but she had nowhere else to go. Victor's people were still out there. And even if they weren't, Dante was right about one thing. Her old life was gone. A soft knock pulled her from the spiral. It's me, Dante said through the door. Can we talk? No. Please. Selena didn't move, didn't answer. A long pause, then, I'm going to talk anyway. You don't have to respond. She heard him sit down, the soft thump of his back hitting the door. You're right, he said quietly, about all of it. I used you, lied to you, put you in danger because I was too selfish to let you walk away. He paused. And the worst part? I'd do it again. Because the alternative was letting you die, and I couldn't... His voice broke. Selena sat up, pressed her hand against the door. I've killed a lot of people, Dante continued, more than I can count. Most of them deserved it. Some didn't. And I've never lost sleep over any of it because that's what this life requires. You become numb. You stop seeing people as people and start seeing them as problems to solve. Silence. But then you walked into my life, and suddenly I couldn't be numb anymore. Couldn't pretend it was all just business. He exhaled shakily. You made me remember what it felt like to care whether someone lived or died, and I hate you for it, because caring makes you weak, makes you vulnerable, makes you human, Selena whispered. She heard him shift on the other side of the door. Yeah, he said. Human. Selena closed her eyes. Tears leaked from the corners. I don't know if I can forgive you. I know. I don't know if I can trust you. I know that too. So where does that leave us? A long pause, then, I don't know, but I'm not asking you to stay. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to survive. And when this is over, when you're safe, you walk away and you never look back. Selena's hand pressed harder against the door. What if I don't want to walk away? The silence that followed felt like falling. Then Dante said, so quietly she almost didn't hear, Then I'll have destroyed you for nothing. Footsteps. He was leaving. Selena unlocked the door and yanked it open. Wait! Dante turned. He looked wrecked, exhausted, like a man who'd fought too many battles and lost too many wars. I need to know something, Selena said. When you came for me tonight, When you gave up everything to get me back. Was that part of the plan? Or was that real? Dante stared at her. And for the first time since she'd met him, every wall he'd built came crashing down. No armor, no strategy, just raw, devastating honesty. That was the first real thing I've done in 20 years, he said. Selina's breath caught. They stood there in the hallway, too close and too far at the same time. The space between them charged with every unspoken word, every moment of violence and survival and unexpected tenderness. Then Serafina's voice cut through. We found him. Dante's expression shifted. The walls went back up. The armor returned. Where? He asked. Warehouse across town. He's holed up with 6 of Victor's remaining men. Dante looked at Selina. I have to go. I know. Will you still be here when I get back? The question hung in the air, weighted with everything they hadn't said, everything they might never get to say. I don't know, Selina whispered. Dante nodded, like he'd expected that answer. Then he turned and walked away. Selina watched him go, watched him transform from the broken man in the hallway into the lethal predator who'd built an empire on fear and blood. And she realized with horrifying clarity that she was in love with both versions. That was the real twist. Not the betrayal, not the lies, but the fact that despite everything, despite the danger and the death and the absolute insanity of her situation, she'd fallen for a man who could never be anything but dangerous. And now she had to decide, walk away and survive, or stay and become something she'd never imagined. Outside, engines roared to life. Selina walked to the window and watched the convoy disappear into the trees. Behind her, Lucia appeared. You love him, she said. Not a question. Selina's reflection stared back from the glass. Bruised, broken, changed. Yeah, she said quietly. I think I do. That's going to get you killed. I know. Lucia stood beside her. They watched the empty driveway together. For what it's worth, Lucia said. I've worked for Dante for 3 years, never seen him like this. Never seen him care about anything except power and survival. She glanced at Selina. You changed him, made him vulnerable. That makes you the most dangerous person in his life. To him or to everyone else? Both. The forest swallowed the last sound of the engines. Silence fell over the cabin. And Selina stood at the window watching the place where Dante had disappeared, knowing that when he came back, if he came back, everything would be different, because she'd already made her choice. She wasn't walking away, she was diving deeper into the darkness. And whatever came next, whoever she had to become to survive it, she'd face it standing beside the man who'd saved her life by destroying everything she used to be. The real question wasn't whether she could survive Dante's world. It was whether anything of the woman she'd been would still exist when the war was. The convoy came back 3 hours later. Selina heard the engines first, that low rumble cutting through the silence of the forest. She stood at the window, hands pressed against the glass, watching headlights cut through the darkness between the trees. One SUV, then another, then a third. They were missing 2 vehicles from the group that left. Her stomach dropped. The SUVs pulled up to the cabin. Doors opened. Men climbed out, moving slower than before. Some limping, others supporting wounded teammates. Blood soaked through tactical gear. Dante emerged from the lead vehicle last. He was alive, walking. But something in the way he moved, stiff, careful, like every step cost him, sent ice through Selina's veins. She was out the door before she could stop herself, across the porch, down the steps. Her feet hit gravel and she was running toward him. Dante looked up, saw her coming. His expression shifted, surprise, then something softer. She reached him and her hands went to his face, checking for injuries. Blood streaked his jaw, a cut above his eyebrow. His knuckles were torn to shreds. Are you okay? She asked. Her voice came out higher than she meant. I'm fine. You're bleeding. It's not mine. Dante. He caught her wrists, gently. His grip was warm despite the cold night air. I'm fine. I promise. Behind him, Serafina climbed out of the second SUV. She looked like she'd been through a war. Hair loose, face splattered with blood, but her eyes were sharp, alert. We got him, she said. Marco? Selina asked. Serafina nodded toward the third SUV. two men dragged someone out of the back. The prisoner's hands were zip-tied, face swollen. He could barely walk. Marco. They hauled him into the cabin. Dante followed. Selena trailed behind, her heart hammering against her ribs. Inside, they threw Marco into a chair. His head lolled forward. Blood dripped from his nose onto the floor. Dante stood in front of him, silent, just watching. "Wake him up," he said finally. One of the men threw water in Marco's face. He came to with a gasp, choking and sputtering. His eyes focused slowly. When he saw Dante, something like fear flickered across his face. "Boss," he slurred, "I can explain." "Don't." Dante's voice was flat, cold. "Don't insult me with explanations." Marco's jaw worked. Blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. "You don't understand. Victor offered—" "I don't care what he offered. He was going to kill my family, my sister, her kids. He had photos, addresses, everything." Marco's voice cracked. "What was I supposed to do?" "Die." Dante's expression didn't change. "You were supposed to die before you betrayed your family. Their blood. So were the people you got killed." Dante crouched down until he was eye level with Marco. "You gave Victor our location, our security protocols. You told him about Selena, about the warehouse operation. How many people died because of you?" Marco looked away, couldn't meet his eyes. "How many?" Dante's voice dropped to a whisper that was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been shouting. "7, Marco said quietly. 7 of ours, plus civilians." The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Dante stood, walked to the window, stared out at the forest with his hands in his pockets. "I trusted you," he said, "brought you into the inner circle, gave you responsibility, respect, and you sold us out for your family." "What would you have done?" Marco asked. His voice came out desperate, broken. "If someone threatened Serafina, if they had photos of her kids, you're telling me you wouldn't have done the same thing?" Dante turned, and the look on his face made Selena's blood run cold. "I would have told them to pull the trigger," he said, "and then I would have burned their entire operation to the ground and pissed on the ashes." Marco's face went white. "But that's the difference between you and me," Dante continued. "I understand what this life costs. I accepted it the day I took over. You?" He shook his head. "You wanted the power without the sacrifice, and that makes you weak." He pulled a gun from his waistband, checked the chamber. The click echoed through the silent room. "Wait!" Marco's voice pitched high, panicked. "Wait, please! I have information about Victor's remaining operations, supply chains, safe houses, everything. I can help you clean up the mess." "You are the mess." Dante raised the gun. Selena stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Don't." Everyone looked at her. "Don't do this," she said. Her voice was shaking. "Not like this." Dante's expression didn't change. "This doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't. You're about to execute someone in front of me." "Then leave." "No." Selena planted her feet. "You want to kill him? Fine. But at least admit what this is. It's not justice. It's revenge." "It's survival," Dante said. "If I let him live, every other person in my organization sees that betrayal has no consequences. And when they think there are no consequences, they start making choices that get more people killed. So you kill him to send a message." "Yes. That makes you no better than Victor." The words hit like a slap. Dante's jaw tightened. Around the room, people shifted uncomfortably. "You're right," he said quietly. "It doesn't. But Victor's dead and I'm still standing. That's the only thing that matters." He turned back to Marco, raised the gun again. "Dante!" Serafina's voice cut through. "She has a point." Dante's finger froze on the trigger. "What?" "Marco has intel we need. Victor's people are scattered but not gone. If we want to finish this, we need to know where they're hiding." Serafina walked over to Marco, grabbed his chin and forced him to look at her. "Talk. Tell us everything. Locations, names, supply routes, and maybe you don't die tonight." Marco's eyes went wide. "You mean it?" "I mean, if the information's good enough, we'll make it quick instead of slow." Marco swallowed hard, then started talking. The next hour was brutal. Marco spilled everything. Names Selena didn't recognize, addresses in cities she'd never been to, details about weapon shipments and money laundering and distribution networks that made her head spin. Serafina took notes on a laptop, cross-referenced information, asked sharp, pointed questions when something didn't add up. Dante stood by the window the entire time, silent, arms crossed, face carved from stone. When Marco finally ran out of information, Serafina sat back. "That's everything?" "Everything," Marco said. His voice was hoarse, raw. "I swear." "Good." She looked at Dante. "Your call." Dante turned, walked over to Marco, stared down at him with those cold silver eyes. "You know what the worst part is?" he asked quietly. "If you just told me the truth from the beginning, that Victor was threatening your family, I would have helped you, hidden them, protected them. That's what family does." Marco's face crumpled. "I didn't think—" "No, you didn't." Dante raised the gun. "And that's why you don't get to walk away." The gunshot was deafening. Marco's head snapped back. Blood sprayed across the chair. His body went limp. Selena turned away. Her hand clamped over her mouth. Bile rose in her throat. Around the room, no one moved. No one spoke. Just the ringing silence after gunfire. Dante lowered the weapon. "Get rid of it." Two men moved forward, dragging Marco's body toward the door. Blood left a trail across the floor. Selena couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. She pushed past people and stumbled outside onto the porch. Cold air hit her face, but it didn't help. She bent over the railing and threw up. Behind her, the door opened. Footsteps. Then Dante's voice. "Selena, don't." She held up a hand. "Just don't. You didn't have to watch." She straightened, wiped her mouth, turned to face him. "Yes, I did, because this is what you are, what this world is. And if I'm going to stay, I need to see all of it." Dante's expression cracked, just for a second, then the armor went back up. "I told you to leave. And I told you I'm staying. Why?" His voice came out raw, desperate. "Why the hell would you stay after watching that?" "Because someone has to remind you you're still human." Selena's hands were shaking. "Someone has to stand here and tell you that what you just did was wrong, that killing people, even people who deserve it, takes something from you. And if no one's here to remind you of that, you'll forget completely." Dante stared at her, and for a moment she thought he might break, might let down every wall and show her the man beneath the monster. Instead, he turned away. "We leave in an hour. Serafina's coordinating strikes on Victor's remaining operations. We hit them all at once, burn everything to the ground. And then what?" "And then it's over." He walked back inside. Selena stood on the porch, staring at the blood trail leading away from the door, and wondered if anything was ever really over in this world, or if violence just begat more violence in an endless, vicious cycle. They moved like ghosts through the night. 6 locations, 6 teams, simultaneous strikes designed to cripple what was left of Victor's network. Dante led the assault on the main warehouse where Victor's second-in-command was coordinating the remains of the operation. Serafina took the financial hub. The other teams scattered to safe houses and storage facilities, and Selena rode in the lead SUV beside Dante, armed with nothing but a first aid kit and the sinking certainty that she was about to watch more people die. "You don't have to come," Dante said. They were 15 minutes out from the target. The city lights glowed on the horizon. "Where else would I go?" "Somewhere safe." Selena looked at him, at the man who'd killed Marco without hesitation, at the criminal who'd built an empire on fear, at the broken human who'd risked everything to save her life. "Safe doesn't exist anymore," she said. Dante's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. The warehouse district came into view. Industrial sprawl, shipping containers, cranes silhouetted against the night sky like skeletal giants. The SUVs killed their headlights and rolled to a stop 2 blocks out. Dante's team assembled in the darkness. 15 men, all armed, all moving with the cold efficiency of soldiers who'd done this before. 2 entrances, Dante said. His voice was low, controlled. "Serafina's intel says 12 hostiles inside, maybe more. We go in fast, clean, no survivors." One of the men glanced at Selena. "What about her?" "She stays in the vehicle with Garcia. If things go south, he gets her out." Garcia, young, scar through his eyebrow, The same driver who'd brought her to the estate nodded. Yes, sir. Dante looked at Selena. You stay in the car. No matter what you hear. No matter what happens. You stay here. Okay. I mean it. I know. He held her gaze for a moment longer, then turned to his team. Move out. They scattered into the shadows. Selena sat in the back of the SUV, Garcia in the driver's seat, watching the warehouse through the tinted windows. Her heart hammered. Sweat slicked her palms despite the cold. Minutes crawled past. Then the night exploded. Gunfire erupted from inside the warehouse. Muzzle flashes lit up the windows. The sound was deafening even from 2 blocks away. Garcia's hand went to the keys in the ignition. If this goes bad, I know. You get me out. More gunfire. Something exploded. Flames licked through a broken window. Selena's fingernails dug into her palms. She counted seconds, tried to breathe, tried not to imagine Dante bleeding out on a warehouse floor. Then silence. The gunfire stopped. The flames died down. Nothing but the sound of sirens in the distance. Garcia's radio crackled. Clear. Target eliminated. 2 casualties on our side, non-critical. Relief flooded through Selena so fast it left her dizzy. Boss? Garcia spoke into the radio. Static. Then Dante's voice. Fine. Bring her in. Garcia looked at Selena in the rearview mirror. You heard him. They drove the 2 blocks to the warehouse. The building looked like a war zone. Windows shattered, bullet holes pocking the concrete. Bodies lay scattered across the loading dock. Selena climbed out of the SUV and tried not to look at the corpses. Inside, Dante's team was securing the area, collecting weapons, zip-tying the 2 men they'd taken alive. Blood pooled on the concrete floor. The smell of gunpowder hung thick in the air. Dante stood near the back office, talking to Serafina through his phone. He looked up when Selena entered. Nodded once. She was okay. He was okay. That was all that mattered. One of the wounded men sat propped against a crate. Blood soaked through his leg. His face was gray with shock. Selena's training kicked in. She grabbed her first aid kit and dropped beside him. Let me see. The man blinked at her. I'm fine. You're bleeding out. Let me see. She cut away his pant leg. The bullet had torn through his thigh. Not arterial, but bad enough. She packed the wound with gauze, applied pressure, wrapped it tight. Can you walk? She asked. If I have to. You have to. We need to move before the cops show. She helped him to his feet. He leaned heavily on her shoulder, limping toward the exit. Dante appeared at her other side, taking the man's weight. Together they got him into an SUV. You didn't have to do that, Dante said. Yes, I did. They looked at each other, blood and gunpowder and survival hanging between them. One more location, Dante said. Then it's done. Where? Victor's personal safe house. According to Marco's intel, his widow's there, along with his financial records and enough leverage to bury half the politicians on the West Coast. Selena's stomach twisted. His widow. Widow's a strong word, more like his partner in the operation. You're going to kill her too, if necessary. Dante. She's not innocent, Selena. She ran the money, coordinated the hits. She's as much a part of this as Victor was. Selena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him there had to be another way. But she'd seen too much tonight, knew too much about how this world worked. There were no clean hands here, only degrees of blood. Let me come with you, she said. No. I'm coming anyway. Dante's expression hardened. This isn't up for debate. Good. Because I'm not debating. I'm telling you I'm coming. They stared at each other. The rest of the team was loading into vehicles. The wounded man Selena had patched up was being transferred to a medical unit that would ask no questions. Why? Dante asked finally. Why do you want to see this? Because you're about to go kill a woman, and I need to know if that's something I can live with. Dante's jaw worked. And if it's not? Then I walk away, tonight, and I never look back. The weight of it settled between them. Everything they'd survived, everything they'd become, all of it balanced on this one moment. Fine, Dante said. You come, but you stay in the vehicle, and if I tell Garcia to get you out, he gets you out. No arguments. Deal. They climbed into the lead SUV. The convoy pulled out. leaving the burning warehouse behind. The safe house was in the hills overlooking the city. Expensive, isolated, the kind of place where you could scream and no one would hear. Dante's team surrounded the building, cut the power, moved in through every entrance simultaneously. Selena sat in the back of the SUV, watching through the windows, her heart in her throat. The assault was quieter this time, suppressed weapons, quick, efficient movements. Within minutes, they'd cleared the first floor. Then someone started screaming, not a man's voice, a woman's. Selena's hands clenched. Is that Victor's widow? Garcia said. The screaming got louder, more desperate, then cut off abruptly. Dante's voice came through the radio. Bring her. Garcia looked at Selena. Stay here. No way. He said, I don't care what he said. She was out of the vehicle before Garcia could stop her, across the driveway, up the front steps, through the door. Inside, Dante's team had assembled in the living room. Expensive furniture, modern art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking city lights that glittered like broken glass. And in the center of it all, on her knees with a gun to her head, was a woman about Selena's age. Dark hair, designer clothes torn and blood-stained, mascara running down her face. She was sobbing, pleading in Russian. Dante stood over her. His face was completely blank. English, he said. The woman switched languages mid-sentence. Please, please don't kill me. I have money. I can pay you. Whatever you want. Just please. Where are the records? What? The financial records, ledgers, blackmail files. Where are they? The woman's eyes darted toward a wall panel. Hidden. Behind the painting. Please, take them. Take everything. Just let me live. Dante gestured. Two of his men pulled down the painting and pried open the panel. Inside was a safe. One of them started working on the combination. The woman looked up at Dante. You're Moretti? Yes. Victor said you were weak, that you'd gone soft. Her voice came out bitter, broken. He was wrong. He usually was. The safe clicked open. The men started pulling out files, USB drives, cash. Everything Victor had used to build his empire and keep his enemies under control. Got it all, boss, one of them said. Dante nodded, then looked down at the woman. What's your name? She blinked, surprised by the question. Katya. Katya. You have children? Her face crumpled. 2 boys. They're with my mother in Moscow. Good. They'll have a parent. He raised the gun. Wait! Selena's voice cut through the room. Everyone turned. She walked forward. Every eye tracked her movement, stopped a few feet from Dante. Don't, she said quietly. I have to. No, you don't. She's not a threat. Victor's dead. His operation's destroyed. She can't hurt you. She knows too much. So let her go. Give her money. Put her on a plane back to Moscow. But don't kill her in cold blood. Dante's expression didn't change. If I let her go, she becomes leverage for someone else. Someone who wants revenge. Someone who wants to rebuild. Or she goes home to her kids and never thinks about this life again. You don't know that. And you don't know she won't. They stared at each other. The gun stayed raised. Katya sobbed quietly on the floor. This is what you are, Selena said. Her voice was steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. This moment, right now, you can be the man who executes a mother because she might be a threat someday. Or you can be the man who chooses mercy even when it costs you. Mercy gets you killed in this world. Maybe. But maybe it's what keeps you human. The silence stretched. Dante's finger rested on the trigger. One small movement and it would be over. Then he lowered the gun. Get her out of here, he said to Garcia. Passport, cash. One-way ticket to Moscow. If I ever see her face again, she's dead. Make sure she understands. Garcia nodded, hauled Katya to her feet. She was still crying, but now it was relief instead of terror. She looked at Selena. Thank you. Go, Selena said, before he changes his mind. Garcia dragged her out. The rest of the team grabbed the files and started clearing the house. Within minutes, they were gone. Just Selena and Dante left in the empty living room. You made me weak, Dante said. He wasn't looking at her, just staring at the spot where Katya had knelt. I made you human. Same thing. No, it's not. Selena walked over to him, stood close enough to see the exhaustion carved into his face. Being weak means giving up. Being human means choosing to be better even when it's hard. Dante finally looked at her. And what if being better gets us both killed? Then at least we die as people instead of monsters. His hand came up, cupped her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I don't deserve you. No, you don't. Selena's hand covered his. But I'm here anyway. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead against hers. For a moment they just stood there, breathing, surviving, two broken people holding each other up in the wreckage of a war. Then Dante's radio crackled, Serafina's voice. All targets secured. Operation shut down. It's done. Dante pulled back, picked up the radio. Confirmed. Rendezvous at the secondary location. Copy. See you there. The radio went silent. Dante looked at Selena. It's over. Victor's people are scattered or dead. His money's frozen. His leverage is in our hands. The war's over. And now what? Now we rebuild. Figure out what comes next. What do you want to come next? The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Dante's hand was still on her face. His thumb traced her jaw. I want to give you a choice. What kind of choice? The kind I should have given you from the beginning. He stepped back, dropped his hand. Walk away. Right now. I'll give you money. New identity. Relocation. Whatever you need to disappear and never look back. Or stay, knowing exactly what this world is, what I am. And help me figure out if there's a way to be something better. Selena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The moment where she decided who she was going to be. The woman who ran. Or the woman who stayed. I need you to promise me something, she said. What? No more lies. No more manipulation. If I stay, we're partners, equal. You don't make decisions about my life without me. Dante's expression shifted. Something like hope flickered across his face. I can do that. And you work toward getting out. Not today, not tomorrow. But eventually, you find a way to transition power and walk away from this life. That's a big ask. It's the only ask that matters. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay. Okay? I'll work toward it. Can't promise how long it'll take. Can't promise it won't be dangerous. But I'll try. Selena stepped closer, rose on her toes, pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft, gentle. Nothing like the violence and chaos that had brought them together. Just two people choosing each other despite every reason not to. When they pulled apart, Dante's arms wrapped around her, held her tight. I'm going to screw this up, he whispered against her hair. Probably. And you're still staying? Yeah, I'm still staying. They stood there in the empty house, holding each other, while outside the convoy waited to take them to whatever came next. And for the first time since Selena had opened that door in the rain, she felt something like hope. Maybe they'd both survive this. Maybe they'd find a way to be more than the violence that had forged them. Maybe. The convoy pulled up to a new safe house as dawn broke over the mountains. This one was different. Smaller, more isolated, the kind of place where you could breathe without checking over your shoulder. Serafina was already there. She met them at the door. It's done, she said. All targets eliminated. Victor's network is ash. We control the territory now. Dante nodded. Casualties? 3 dead, 7 wounded. Could have been worse. Could have been better. Serafina's eyes flicked to Selena. You're still here. Apparently. Interesting. Serafina looked back at Dante. We need to talk about transition plans, about Marco's betrayal and what it means for internal security, about tomorrow, Dante said. Tonight I need to sleep for about 14 hours. Serafina raised an eyebrow. You're delegating? I'm trusting you to handle it. Something shifted in Serafina's expression. Surprise. Maybe respect. All right, tomorrow then. She left. Dante and Selena walked inside. The house was quiet, empty, just them and the sound of wind through pine trees. There's a bedroom upstairs, Dante said. You should rest. What about you? I'll take the couch. Selena caught his hand. Or you could take the bedroom with me. He looked at her, really looked at her. You sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. They climbed the stairs together, found the bedroom. It was simple, clean, a bed, a window, nothing more. Selena sat on the edge of the mattress and started unlacing her boots. Her hands were shaking. Exhaustion and adrenaline crash hitting all at once. Dante sat beside her, took over unlacing her boots when her fingers fumbled. I killed a lot of people tonight, he said quietly. I know. And you're still here. I am. He set her boots aside, looked at her with those silver eyes that didn't seem quite so cold anymore. Why? He asked. Selena reached up, touched his face, felt the stubble rough against her palm. Because somewhere between the gunfire and the lies and the absolute insanity of this whole thing, I fell in love with you, she said. And I don't know if that makes me brave or stupid, but it's true. Dante's breath caught. Selena, you don't have to say it back. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. He kissed her, hard, desperate, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they broke apart, his forehead pressed against hers. I love you too, he whispered, and it terrifies me. Good. It should. They lay down together, clothes still on, too exhausted for anything but holding each other. Dante's arms wrapped around her, his heartbeat steady against her back. Outside, the sun climbed higher. Birds started singing. The world kept turning. And for the first time in weeks, Selena closed her eyes and slept without nightmares. But in the darkness, just before sleep claimed her completely, a single thought flickered through her mind. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of whatever came next. And whatever that was, they'd face it together. Or die trying. Selena woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee drifting up from somewhere below. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it came back in fragments. The warehouse, the gunfire, Katya on her knees, Dante's hand on her face, the choice she'd made. She rolled over. The bed beside her was empty, but still warm. Dante had been there, recently. Selena sat up, wincing as every muscle in her body screamed in protest. Bruises painted her arms purple and yellow. Her wrists were raw where the handcuffs had cut into skin. She looked like she'd been through a war. Because she had. She found clothes laid out on a chair, jeans that fit well enough, a sweater that smelled like laundry detergent. Someone had been shopping, or stealing. Either way, they were clean. Downstairs, she found Dante in the kitchen. He stood at the counter, staring at a laptop screen with that same focused intensity he brought to everything. His hair was still wet from a shower. He'd changed into fresh clothes, but the exhaustion still carved deep lines around his eyes. He looked up when she entered. Something softened in his expression. Coffee? He asked. Please. He poured her a cup. Their fingers brushed when he handed it to her. The touch was electric. Familiar. Like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. Selena sipped the coffee. It was strong enough to strip paint. Perfect. How long was I out? She asked. 8 hours. You needed it. What about you? 3, maybe 4. Dante gestured to the laptop. Serafina sent the damage reports. Victor's operation is completely dismantled. Territory's ours. Financial records are being analyzed. And Katya? On a plane to Moscow. Garcia confirmed she landed 2 hours ago. Selena nodded, took another sip of coffee. You let her live. You asked me to. I know, but you could have said no. Dante closed the laptop, walked over to where she stood. Stopped close enough that she could see the exhaustion and something else in his eyes. Something that looked almost like peace. I spent 20 years being the man who always said no, he said quietly, who made the hard choices, who did what was necessary no matter the cost. And it built an empire, but it also built a prison. He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You gave me permission to say yes, to choose something different, even when it was harder. Harder doesn't mean wrong. No, it doesn't. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You changed me, made me want to be better. And I don't know if that's going to get us both killed or save us, but I know I can't go back to who I was before you. Selena set down her coffee, stepped closer. Her hands found his chest, felt his heartbeat beneath her palms. Then don't, she said. Be someone new. With me. He kissed her. Slow and deep and full of promises neither of them knew if they could keep. but they'd try. The moment broke when footsteps sounded on the porch. Dante pulled away, his hand moving instinctively toward the gun at his waistband. Then he relaxed. Serafina. The door opened. Serafina walked in looking like she hadn't slept either. She carried a tablet and wore the expression of someone about to deliver bad news. "We have a problem," she said. Dante's jaw tightened. "What now?" Marco's intel checked out, all of it. Victor's operations are shut down, but there's something he didn't tell us. She turned the tablet around. On the screen was a photo. A man Selina didn't recognize, late 50s, expensive suit, cold eyes. "Who's that?" Selina asked. "Alexei Volkov," Serafina said, Victor's older brother, and the actual head of the Volkov family operation. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. "Victor was middle management," Serafina continued. "The operations we hit, those were regional. Alexei runs the entire East Coast network, and according to intercepted communications from this morning, he just found out his brother's dead." Dante's hands balled into fists. "Where is he?" "New York. But he's moving, consolidating power, calling in favors, and he's put a price on your head that would make most people retire for life." "How much?" 10 million, dead or alive." Selina's stomach dropped. 10 million? "It gets worse," Serafina said. "He's offering another 5 million for anyone associated with you. Family, friends, partners." Her eyes flicked to Selina. "Lovers." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. "So we're both targets," Selina said. "Everyone in this room is a target," Serafina corrected. "Alexei doesn't do half measures. He's going to come at us with everything he has. And unlike Victor, he's smart enough not to underestimate us." Dante walked to the window, stared out at the forest. His reflection in the glass was carved from stone. "Options?" he asked. "We run," Serafina said. "Scatter, disappear, make it hard for him to find us." "That's not an option, that's surrender." "Or we go to war, hit him before he hits us. But that means taking on the entire Volkov network. Their resources make Victor's operation look like a lemonade stand." Dante didn't respond, just kept staring at the trees. Selina walked over to him, stood beside him at the window. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking I should send you away," he said quietly. "Somewhere Alexei can't find you, somewhere safe." We already had this conversation. That was before there was a $15 million price on your head. And my answer's the same. Selina turned to face him. "I'm not running, not from this, not from you. You could die. I could have died a dozen times already, but I didn't, because you kept me alive, so now I'm going to return the favor." Dante's expression cracked. "You don't understand what you're saying. Alexei isn't Victor. He's worse, smarter, more connected. If we go after him, the chances of survival are, I don't care about the odds." "You should." "Well, I don't." Selina's voice came out sharper than she meant. "You told me to choose, stay or go. I chose to stay. That means I'm in this, all the way. So stop trying to protect me from the consequences and start treating me like a partner." Serafina made a small sound that might have been approval. Dante looked between them. Two women who'd somehow become the most important people in his life, both of them refusing to back down. "Fine," he said finally. "We don't run. We end this." "How?" Serafina asked. Dante turned away from the window, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "We offer him a trade." "What kind of trade?" "Everything Victor had. The blackmail files, the financial records, the leverage he used to control politicians and businessmen all over the West Coast. It's worth more than 15 million, and if Alexei's smart, he'll take it. And if he's not, then we make him." Serafina's eyes narrowed. "You want to negotiate with a man who wants you dead." "I want to give him a reason to want me alive more." Dante started pacing. His mind was already 3 steps ahead. "The files we took from Victor's safe house. Some of that leverage is against people Alexei needs. If we threaten to burn it all, to expose everything and bring down everyone Victor had under his thumb, it creates chaos Alexei can't afford. So we threaten mutually assured destruction," Selina said. "Exactly. We make the cost of killing us higher than the cost of letting us walk away." "That's insane," Serafina said, but she was smiling. "It might actually work. It'll work if we do it right." Dante stopped pacing. Set up a meeting, neutral ground, public enough that he can't just execute us, private enough that we can talk. And if he says no, then we release everything, burn it all down, and we disappear in the chaos. Serafina nodded slowly. I'll make the call. She left. Dante and Selena stood alone in the kitchen. Outside, birds sang. Wind rustled through pine trees. The world kept turning like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. This could go wrong in about 1,000 different ways, Selena said. I know. We could both end up dead. I know that too. So why does it feel like the right move? Dante pulled her close, his arms wrapped around her. She felt his heartbeat against her cheek. Steady, sure. Because, for the first time in my life, I'm not just fighting to survive, he said quietly. I'm fighting for something worth living for. Selena closed her eyes, breathed him in. When did you get so good at saying the right thing? When I met someone worth saying it to. They stood there holding each other while outside the future waited, uncertain, dangerous, but theirs to face together. The meeting was set for 3 days later. Neutral ground turned out to be a private room in an upscale restaurant in downtown Seattle, public enough that Alexei couldn't stage an execution, expensive enough that armed guards wouldn't draw attention. Dante spent those 3 days preparing. Running scenarios, analyzing intel, making sure every contingency was covered. Selena spent them learning how to shoot. Garcia took her to a makeshift range in the woods behind the safe house. Set up targets, handed her a 9mm and showed her how to hold it. Stance, he said, adjusted her feet, her grip. Breathe, squeeze, don't pull. She fired. The recoil kicked her hands up. The bullet went wide. Again. She fired until her hands shook, until her ears rang, until the targets had holes where center mass should be. You're getting better, Garcia said. I'm getting less terrible. There's a difference. In this world, less terrible keeps you alive. On the 3rd day, Serafina found her cleaning the gun on the back porch. You don't have to come tomorrow, she said. Selena didn't look up, just kept running the cloth along the barrel. Yes, I do. Dante would understand if you stayed behind. Maybe, but I wouldn't. Serafina sat down on the porch rail. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone weaker. Someone who'd run the first chance she got. Serafina's expression was unreadable. You're stubborn. Probably too stubborn for your own good. I'll take that as a compliment. It was. Serafina was quiet for a moment. My brother's different since he met you. More human. Less cold. I'm not sure if that's good or bad yet. Neither am I. But you're staying anyway. Yeah, I'm staying anyway. Serafina nodded, stood. For what it's worth? I'm glad he has you. Someone who sees him as more than just a weapon. She left. Selena finished cleaning the gun, loaded it, checked the safety, tucked it into the holster Garcia had given her. Tomorrow she'd walk into a room with one of the most dangerous men on the East Coast and bet everything that words would be stronger than bullets. It was insane. But so was everything else about her life now. The restaurant was called Elevation, 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. The kind of place where entrees cost 3 figures and the wine list read like a novel. Dante, Serafina, and Selena arrived exactly on time. Garcia and 3 others waited in the lobby, armed, ready. The hostess led them to a private room in the back. Inside, a long table was set for dinner, crystal glasses, white linens, candles flickering despite the daylight outside. And at the head of the table sat Alexei Volkov. He was bigger than his photo suggested, 6'4", maybe more, built like a boxer who'd aged into his weight, gray hair slicked back, eyes like chips of ice. He wore a suit that probably cost more than Selena's clinic had made in a year. 2 men flanked him, both armed, both watching with the cold precision of professionals. Dante Moretti, Alexei said. His English was perfect, no accent. I'd say it's a pleasure, but we both know that would be a lie. Alexei, Dante sat down across from him. Serafina took the seat to his right, Selena to his left. Thank you for agreeing to meet. You didn't give me much choice, threatened to burn down half my network, and I tend to pay attention. Alexei's eyes flicked to Selena. And who's this? Dr. Selena Vale, Dante said. She's with me. The veterinarian. Alexei smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. The woman my brother died trying to use against you. Interesting choice to bring her here. She insisted. Brave or stupid. Alexei leaned back in his chair. So, you wanted to negotiate. I'm listening. Dante slid a tablet across the table. Everything Victor had. Financial records, blackmail files. Leverage on politicians, judges, businessmen from Vancouver to San Diego. Some of those people are yours now. Some you'd like to acquire. All of it becomes yours. In exchange, you call off the bounty, and we walk away. Alexei picked up the tablet, scrolled through the files. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Interest. Maybe greed. This is substantial, he said finally, but it doesn't account for the fact that you killed my brother. Your brother tried to kill me first, multiple times. True. Victor was always impulsive. It got him killed. Alexei set down the tablet. But family is family. His death demands a response. Which is why we're here, Serafina said, to find a response that doesn't require more bodies. Noble but impractical. Alexei gestured to one of his men. A briefcase appeared. He opened it. Inside, stacks of cash. I'll make you a counteroffer. You give me the files. I give you $10 million, and you disappear. Permanently. Change your names. Leave the country. Never set foot in my territory again. And if we refuse, Dante asked, then I spend $15 million hunting you down, and when I find you, and I will find you, the deaths won't be quick. The room went silent. Outside, seagulls cried. Boats cut white trails across gray water. Selena's hand moved to the gun at her hip, not drawing, just touching, reminding herself it was there. There's a third option, Dante said. Alexei raised an eyebrow. Which is? We release everything, right now, every file, every secret, every piece of leverage Victor had. We send it to newspapers, federal prosecutors, international watchdogs. We burn it all down. That would destroy you too. Maybe. But it would definitely destroy you. All those politicians you rely on? Gone. All those judges who look the other way? Exposed. Your entire network collapses because you couldn't let one grudge go. Alexei's expression hardened. You're bluffing. Am I? Dante pulled out his phone, showed the screen, an email draft. Recipients, 24 media outlets and law enforcement agencies. Attachments, hundreds of files. His thumb hovered over the send button. Test me. The silence stretched. Alexei's men shifted, hands moving toward weapons. Dante didn't move, didn't blink, just held the phone steady. You'd really do it, Alexei said quietly. Burn everything you've built just to spite me. In a heartbeat. That's insane. That's survival. Alexei stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. You're not what I expected, Moretti. Victor said you'd gone soft. That love made you weak. His eyes flicked to Selena. But I think it made you desperate. And desperate men are the most dangerous kind. He closed the briefcase, slid it across the table. Take the money. Take your woman. Disappear. If I ever see you again, you're dead. But if you stay gone, we're square. Dante didn't move. The bounty? Lifted, as of this moment. And your word that you won't come after anyone associated with me? You have it. On my brother's grave. Dante looked at Serafina. She nodded once, then at Selena. Her hand was still on the gun, but she nodded too. Deal, Dante said. He deleted the email draft, closed the tablet, slid it across the table to Alexei. Pleasure doing business with you, Alexei said. He stood. His men fell in behind him. At the door, he paused. One more thing. Yes? Victor made you into an enemy because he thought you were weak. I'm letting you walk away because I know you're not. Alexei's expression was unreadable. Don't make me regret it. He left. The door closed behind him. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Dante exhaled slowly and set his phone on the table. His hands were shaking. We're alive, Serafina said. She sounded surprised. We're alive, Dante confirmed. Selena looked at the briefcase. Is that really $10 million? Probably. And we're just Taking it and leaving? That was the deal. So it's over. Dante looked at her, and something in his expression, relief mixed with exhaustion, mixed with something that might have been joy, made her chest tight. Yeah, he said. It's over. They walked out of the restaurant together. Garcia and the others fell in behind them. Out on the street, Seattle hummed with afternoon traffic and oblivious pedestrians who had no idea how close they'd just come to watching a war start. Where do we